Welcome to our panel today for Jeepers Creepers. I am your host, Griffey. I am from Misfit Parade and the Messed Up Movies podcast. You can find us wherever you find podcasts and on YouTube. That would be great if you could give us a subscribe. But you're not here to hear me. You're here to talk to our two guests today. Jonathan and Brian, would you please join me on the stage? Can we get a round of applause for our guests?
Hey, everybody. Move on up, man. What is this? Come on down. Let's
You're like the kids who don't want to get called on by the teacher out there.
I don't bite. I've already been fed today.
I was going to say, all of us who have seen the movies, I don't know that we will trust that at all.
Yeah.
So just to start the conversation off here, would you guys like to introduce yourself and what you were doing in the Jeepers Creepers movies?
Well, I'm the creeper.
That's all you need
Enough
to say.
said.
On to you.
And I'm Brian Penikas, and my team and I did the creeper, all the creeper stuff you saw in the first two films.
Absolutely iconic. So I've always loved Jeepers Creepers. It came out at that beautiful, like, high school I had just gotten my driver's license kind of age. It was one that we would watch over and over. I actually just got to watch it with my kids for the first time.
Oh, wow.
And they flipped over this movie.
Wow.
They absolutely loved it.
Wow. And
So
how old are your kids?
8 and 11. What? Yeah.
Good age. The
I-
CDs, yeah.
You guys can just tell me how good of a dad I am later. Yeah.
I've
be
heard
hiding
much
under my
younger,
bed
so.
if my
Yeah.
dad tried to
Well, no,
make
I
me
think
watch
I
a
did
monster
set the
movie.
record. I definitely brought the youngest child in probably the world to the opening weekend of Cocaine Bear when my son was 5. And when I took him to daycare the next day, I say, Sugar Bear, Sugar Bear. Don't fucking get me in trouble. But yeah, they love horror movies. And I think that's one of the coolest things about these horror movies is they go as that lineage. And now that we grew up as the super fans, right, in the VHS era and the video store eras, getting to share that now with my kids is really fun. And this is one that blew their mind. And I think specifically, your performance as the creeper and the incredible makeup and costuming that you guys came up with. So for you two, I have kind of a two-part question for both of you. So for you, as an actor, what is it like to perform under all of that? And how do you still maintain? Because there's a humanness through the makeup that I always thought was really fascinating with how the creeper's laid out, right? It's not a mask, there's very human qualities in there. And then when you guys were working on coming up with the design, what were the important elements you were looking for that character?
So, yeah, great questions. I think first of all, the reason that I'm so proud to have been a part of this production because they employed talented people like Brian, and they made this movie the old-fashioned way, the right way, right, with practical effects.
Absolutely.
And with a team of artists. And because they took the time to do that, your children can watch it 25 years later, and it still holds up.
Yeah, it's not like
Right?
the Scorpion King.
Yeah,
CG.
exactly. It's like. I mean, if they'd have blasted CG everywhere, it'd be unwatchable today. Right?
Yeah.
So it's so great that we're able to introduce the next generation to horror films the way that horror films should be made, the way that we all grew up watching them, right? So it's awesome. I love hearing that, and I love coming to shows like this because now I'm seeing generational fan bases.
Yeah,
I'm
isn't that the
seeing
coolest thing?
dads coming or grandparents coming with their kids, and all 3 generations are Creepers fans, which is really a testament mainly to the work that he and Victor and everybody else did. I'm just the guy that was lucky enough to wear the makeup. And
Yeah, but you did more than wear it.
Yeah, well.
well, I might have done it. And I'll take the first part of your question, then I'll hand it off to him. So, I don't really. It's interesting. I approached this role. I was just a young actor in LA, hoping to get a job and pay my rent, to be frank. And this weird little audition came along, and they sent me the script, and I was like, what do they want me to do for the audition? I don't have any lines,
I guess just creep.
Well, they said, we want you to create a character. And so I really approached it like I would any other acting role. Obviously, since he doesn't speak, it's all about behavior.
Yes.
And so I really approached the role from the inside out. And so I never really gave a thought to how am I going to push a performance through makeup.
Yeah.
I never really thought about it. I thought, if I wanted what I want bad enough, which he does, right, that's going to come through. And in terms of bringing a human quality to him, I thought that it would be so much more terrifying if I could find places to communicate that universal humanness
Yeah,
in a disturbing way.
absolutely.
Right, so there's something definitely off about him, but there's something very human about him, and I think that
Yeah.
makes it more disturbing. You can connect with that. So I
Yeah.
thought that those qualities were really important. And then as the series went on, and we made the second movie and the third movie, we found more personality, and I was even having more fun with the role.
Yeah.
You know, so
Because now you know you can do it. Now you're seeing what else you can do.
That's and that is, and I tell this to fans all the time when I have conversations with them. I'm like, it's such a gift to be able to do a sequel
Yeah.
because you've already prepared the character, and now you go away for a year, 2 or 3 years, and it's always, you know, it's like anything in life, right? You think back and you're like, oh, it would have been cool if I could do this, or I would have done this a different way, or something like that.
Yep.
And now coming back 2 years later to do the film, you've had time to marinate.
Yeah.
And when they let you in the makeup again, you don't start here, you start here. And you're like, man, let's go, baby. You know,
And that sequel,
so
you guys were really pushing it too.
yeah, and you could probably tell, especially with the second movie, I was chewing the scenery. I was
That's
just
my favorite
loving.
one.
I
I
was
love
loving.
that one. Yeah.
I was having so much fun. Couldn't wait to get to work.
Yeah, that's the cool thing. I heard the actor David Desmalchin was talking about this when he auditioned. That he's a theater guy, so he prepared all this wild, intricate stuff. And the casting director said, love all that. But he's like, when you come back tomorrow, put all that in your eyes, right? And I thought that was always the coolest thing. That made me think of your performance.
Yeah.
That fury, that primal hunger.
Yeah.
Just oozes out of you in that movie. And it's so disturbing. And also he's very human because at some point he had to go to the DMV and get planes. I would love to see the Creepers photo on his driver's license.
Well, people ask me that question all the time, and it's like hilarious. First of all, I laugh because I'm like, first of all, the Creeper can do anything. Come on, right? And I have an image of going into the DMV and grabbing one of those grumpy old ladies by the throat and going, your blood, or, you know. So,
She just gives you one of those little paper tickets.
Yeah. Basically doing exactly what all of us wish we could do at the DMV, right? So anyway, I've talked enough. Brian, you want to take the second half of that question?
Sure. You made a mention about acting through the makeup, and 9 times out of 10 when I'm putting an actor into heavy prosthetics like that, they get stiff. They feel like they're in a neck brace, and they start, like, instead of turning their neck, they'll move their shoulders.
The Michael Keaton Batman, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, no, this is soft foam latex. Move around and act through it. So you saying that reminded me that I never had to tell you to do that. You just you saw the character and brought the character to life without me having to coach you and say, don't walk around like you're in a neck brace.
Well, it's so amazing when I first looked at myself. The makeup is so intricate. I hope you get a chance to see it in person one day when we're doing one of our in-costume things. But it's so intricate. When I look down at the Creeper hands, I see my veins in the Creeper's hands. It's a blending, really. It's not a layer. It's kind of it's a combination of me and the makeup that it really is. And so it was easy to not think that you're wearing anything. It was just kind of you on steroids. That's how I thought of it, you know? So.
Cool. Okay. Yeah, and then what was the second part of the question?
I think the Creepers become so iconic, right? And especially in part 2, right? We get this expanding. He has other abilities that we didn't know about, the wings and all this kind of stuff, new weaponry. So when you were approached to do this, where did you guys start in regards to character design? And what were the elements that you thought were important to bring out in this character?
Well, when I first came on board, it was just Victor and Brad Parker, our production illustrator, who did storyboards as well, and that we would sit around and scribble out concepts based on what Victor had written. And because the Creeper is trying to hide in and amongst his victims and trying to look human, to do that, we knew that his head had to be closed up and folded up as best he could do to look like a human. So that's where all that design of the wrinkly skin texture and all that happened. And that concept started before we even went to the open face thing, and I remember, I love telling this story. It said in the script, and bat-like wings opened up around the creeper's mouth, and Brad had no concept of where to go with that as he's storyboarding, and he drew the creeper scribble with bat-like wings around his mouth, and it was the dorkiest looking thing. And he was like, "Don't take this seriously, I just had to put something on paper." And so we'd have these little roundhouse meetings, and one day I figured, okay, let me draw like a demonish face with like an opened up octopus kind of behind it.
Yeah.
And Victor saw that and went, "Oh, okay, this is cool, but I want to still be able to recognize the actor in the creeper makeup underneath that. Don't go so demonic with it." And then they hired Breck, and then we got an idea of where to go with how it was going to get streamlined and all that, because now we had a real face to work with. So, yeah.
Yeah, it was one of those movies too. It had been a long time since we had an iconic new monster, it felt like, right?
And it's been a long time since there's been
That's
one.
what I'm saying. It feels like there's these gaps, and this came in this kind of drought period. And it harkened back to me watching all those 80s movies that we all loved, right? Where the characters felt so real. It felt like they had true biology, right? And why these things were designed. And I thought you just did such a lovely job of bringing out those realistic elements in a movie that, you know, is not always realistic all the time.
Right.
If the costume and the character is not believable in that regard.
And another credit to Victor on this too, because some of the early designs for the creeper were very 50s Outer Limits, over the top kind of stylized makeups, and Victor was like, let's streamline that, and we toned it down to a point that it is what it became. And you look at that compared to some of the other stuff that was going on that looks like a big clunky pullover mask. And even today with like some of these reimagined Star Trek movies, you've got all these like lollipop head aliens on these tiny little bodies. Like, I don't care what planet you're from, that would hurt your neck.
Yeah.
So yes, streamlining Breck's makeup just worked. And we padded you up for the second movie because I wanted to get away from the lollipop look. And so we actually had him wearing the muscle suit, or the gargoyle muscle suit underneath the wardrobe for the second movie, and it beefed him up a lot more. And because he had so much more screen time in the second movie, it paid off. We saw a lot more of the creeper in the second film than we did the first.
Yeah, I just remember when part 2 came out and we went. It had become this, you know, immediate classic with me and all of my friends. And my God, you guys blew it through the roof, literally, of the bus with that sequel. What was that like for you guys to now you're not just doing this, the first one's a classic, right, with Justin Long, it's beautiful. But now you guys have this entire bus full of people. And what's that like when you guys are looking at that project? Is it just this like Christmas morning feeling about all the good stuff you guys are gonna get to do?
Absolutely, and all the new, you know, it's so Victor loves, brilliant that he didn't really tell you who the creeper was or what he is, because he really wanted to be able to drop some breadcrumbs along the way, but also surprise you. Like, you didn't see the wings coming out when they first came out, right? And all the weapons, the first one, right? And all the weapons that he comes up with, and now he's flying in the second movie. He's doing all this crazy shit. So, you know, you look at that and you're like, your eyes get big, and you're like, it's like being a kid again. I'd go to work and I'd come home and my wife would say, "Well, how was it today?" And I'd be like, "Well, I flew and killed a couple annoying teenagers that had it coming to them, and I got to throw a few throwing stars." And you know, it's like you would imagine, right?
Oh God,
So
yeah.
it's like,
I mean,
I had a blast, you know.
and that's the thing. I think those movies too. Like, the only real sin a movie can do to me is when it feels like the people making it are bored and not interested in it. I feel like that the joy of those movies really pours through the screen. So when you guys got the script and you were looking at all of your new effects and new challenges, how did that approach how you took on the creeper in the sequel?
As well, all of that, and again, the greatest thing between Victor and Brad would be drawing all this stuff out in storyboards, and Victor's very shot specific, as we say. We're only going to see it this way for this shot, so you don't have to build all this other stuff. And we did a lot of the builds that way, and we're excited to see that come into fruition. Like, all right, is this going to work in the way he's scripted it? And don't get on me about the fact that that eyeball on the end of the javelin is pointed in the wrong direction. That was not my deal. If you get a javelin poked into your eyeball, that eyeball is not going to be looking at the camera when it's sticking out of the end of the thing.
Details.
That's what we call movie magic.
Yeah. But yeah, there was so much more eye candy for us as artists and stuff that had to build all this stuff. And I don't know if any of you have walked by my table and you see the little weapons display that I've got. There's a throwing star. The throwing stars are up there, and the tooth star is there. And when that design came across my desk, I was like, I know where that tooth is coming from. I had all 4 of my wisdom teeth pulled out when I was in high school, and I still had them. And one of them I had in my desk for whatever reason at the workshop. So that's my one and only cameo in the 2 movies is that tooth.
I never heard that before.
Your DNA is literally in this movie. Yeah.
And so much that we actually didn't get to shoot. Too.
Yeah.
So many set pieces that we never got to.
Really?
Oh my God. Yeah. Right?
The coach, the puppet coach.
Oh, puppeteer. There's a scene in the second one that was written in the script. It's one of those scenes you read and you're like, oh man, I can't wait to do this, But I'll describe it for him. It's in the second movie. Kids are arguing on the bus, being who they are, and all of a sudden they hear a voice, and they hear it's the coach's voice. Kids, help me, and they're like, fuck, coach, and they're like, where's it coming from? Help me, and they're like, it's on the field, and they all rush to the window of the bus. You can see them all rushing to the window of the bus looking out, and they hear coach, help me, kids, and they're looking out there, and finally they see the coach's head barely sticking above the corn out there, and they're like, coach, he's alive, help me, kids, and then they start arguing. We got to go out there and help him. I'm not going out there, you go out there, who's going out there? And while they're arguing, we see the camera pan around to the back of the coach's head, and the creeper's got his hand in the back of the coach's skull, and he's a ventriloquist, and he's throwing his voice like the coach, right? Trying to lure the kids out into the field. And
how is that not in the movie?
Well, exactly.
That's insane.
Well, it's not the only one, too. It's like there's amazing. We have storylines for days. Yeah. Not just things that we couldn't shoot, but things that we've talked about, imagining.
Right.
So, yeah.
And you got me going back to one of the original questions, too, about that brings up the mind of performance. Those kids on the bus reacted the way any of us would in a situation like that. And that's brilliant as far as directing and acting and storytelling, because you're right there with them, feeling that. Like, I'm not going out there to save the coach. You go out there. And
are you fucking kidding me? I'm not going out of this bus.
And
coach, you're on your own, baby.
it goes back to good storytelling and good execution of storytelling, to the point where early on, when people were asking me about Jeepers Creepers 2, I said, if you took the creeper out of it, it's still a great movie.
Yeah.
Because of all the performances of all the talent on the screen.
Yeah.
And that can't be said for a lot of slasher films and stuff.
Well, Victor, first and foremost, is a great storyteller.
Yeah.
This isn't a horror film where they just came up with a cool character and they threw a bunch of kills in there. It's the story is the spine of it, right? And the character development and all the other things. I mean, Victor's made great movies before he made Jeepers Creepers and Powder and down the line, right? So he's a good storyteller, and I think sometimes that gets lost in genre films like this because they think too much about servicing the genre and they forget about all the basics of storytelling, right?
Yeah, you see that a lot.
All those 1980s horror slasher Friday the 13th movies that all my buddies were doing, the only reason I'd go to the theater to see it is to see the portfolio of blood splatter effects that my buddies were doing. I mean, I didn't care about any of the characters. You just cared about seeing that one die and how they were gonna shove a road flare down the dummy head's mouth, and you know, it was never character driven.
Yeah.
It was like
any job that had a uniform, hot young people, murders.
Yeah.
There was
garden implements and naked teenagers getting
well,
hacked
and
up.
you notice it's like Jeepers Creepers is. I'm sure you thought about this when you showed it to your kids. No real
I
language.
thought about a lot of things.
No real language.
Yeah.
No nudity.
Yep.
No, I mean.
No blood.
No blood.
There's no blood in the first movie.
First 2 movies, there's no blood.
Well,
I guess
a little bit. Braddock got a little bit of blood on it.
Well, at the cop's head, there's a little bit. But
So
not-
this is
but
a
that
great
was all
credit to
shadows.
you, because in my mind, there's blood everywhere as I remember the movie.
Yeah.
You know, that's how I think of Jeepers Creepers.
My-
I imagine a bloodbath.
My blood budget on it was 0.
Blood budget.
Yeah, we didn't have any blood in the first film.
Saw blood on the sheets that I'm.
Oh yeah,
maybe,
but that was
but
set dressing. That wasn't makeup effects.
Actually, I guess that's true. You're hollowing them out. You don't want to waste your sustenance. Smart. More good storytelling. Okay, so I'm sure all of you here have questions you would like to ask. So if you just want to raise your hand, we will fly a mic out, and you guys can get to ask your questions today.
And please do. Don't be shy.
All right. Sophia's going to bring a mic around.
We like to talk, but we like to answer your questions
Oh,
too.
he's got it. All right, raise your hand if you have a question. Anyone? Anyone? Oh, there we go.
Bueller.
Bueller. Don't be scared. It's not the
Hello.
27th.
So when this movie came out, I think I was like 15 or 16 years old. And
Good
I saw it
age
at
to
the
watch it
theater.
for the
Yeah.
first time.
And I've been a horror fan my whole life, but this movie really stuck with me. I think one, because of the creature design. It was so memorable and it looks so great, and it still holds up today. Like, it's a timeless creature. And the ending was super shocking to me. I don't remember a ton of horror movies I saw before that like subverted your expectations about the main character that you're following this whole time, like, dying. So I wondered what you thought about the ending, and if there were any other endings that they thought about doing. But yeah, those are the things that stuck with me a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you kind of know you're in a creeper movie. Like that ending, you're right. It's just so shocking, and bleeding over even into the second film, where you see the blonde-headed 10-year-old boy get it in the first 5 minutes of the second film. Like, what? You know, I was reading that script, going, that's amazing, and that's a creeper film, right? In a testament to what a great writer he is. But we did think about a different ending. As a matter of fact, again, that was written in the first script. So, share a little something with you guys. So, leading up until when you shoot the movie, they're always making revisions, right? And they'll send you a new script, and they'll always print the revisions on a different color page. So by the time you get to the shoot, you've got a script, and it looks like every color of the rainbow, because they've made a million revisions, right? And usually the revisions, especially leading right up to the final shoot days, are like minor. You know, this instead of that, or changing a word or a phrase or something like this. And I never forget arriving in Florida where we shot the first movie, and a guy came to pick me up in the car, and he said,
He hands you a big package.
well, he hands me a package, and he said, there's a new script in there. There's a revised script in there. I said, oh, revisions? I've read a million of those. He goes, no, they told me that you need to read this one. So the guy that came to pick me up from the airport delivered the news that I needed to read, that I had to read the revision. And I pulled the script out, and we had like 2 hours, maybe an hour and a half to go to ride to get to the location. So I remember sitting in the back of the car reading it, and I got to the end, and I was like, where's the rest of it?
Yeah, where is it?
Where's the rest of it? And he said, apparently they budgeted incorrectly, and so we don't have enough money to shoot the end of the movie. So we're gonna end it. They said we're gonna end it in a police station. And I was like, and I was heartbroken, because anyway, there's a huge scene after the police station. Kids get away in the original script.
By stealing.
They steal my truck. There's this great scene where they're looking at the back of the truck, seeing all these bodies and all these weapons and all the creepers' stuff, right? And then a creeper gets away from the cops, of course, and breaks through the windows, bombing after the kids, flying after the kids, and he lands on the cab of the truck. There's this huge fight. You know, he's pulling Derry out of one side smelling him, trying to figure out who he wants. The creeper's out of his mind now.
Yeah.
And then he's got, Trish, and she's pulling her out the other side, and they're fighting me, and they're trying to drive the truck down the road, and then way off down the road, you see a train coming, right? And so there's this amazing 15-minute battle between the creeper and the kids, and we never got to shoot it. And they were like, no, don't worry, we'll end it in the police station. Nobody will ever be the wiser. They'll think it's supposed to end there. And they were largely right?
Yeah.
But I know what was in it.
Yeah.
Right? And so we had a great scene all set up. So, but back to your question, and then the bookend at the end was still on it, right? So we still go to my lair, and we still see Derry without his eyes, right?
Yeah, that truck was supposed to crash into the train.
It was supposed to have thank you. It was supposed to have a spectacular explosion, and you see why we didn't have the money to do that, right?
It's not a minor accounting error. Yeah.
Spend half of our budget on a big explosion in the end of the movie. But again, it's such an honor to work on a film with that kind of storytelling, with that kind of talent on film, right? I just feel like a piece of a large canvas with this project,
I'm certainly realizing that now, especially interacting with the fan base at these conventions. This convention thing is very new to me. Breck's been doing it for 20-something years, but
yeah.
we had a conversation back at Christmas time, and a friend of ours was nudging us to say, put him in the suit and do these convention things, and turns out it's the 25th anniversary, so the timing was right. I'm having a ball. This is fun to relive all this stuff we haven't talked about or thought about for all this time. And somebody came up to the table yesterday, and I remembered that the very first day of filming that we filmed The Creeper, and my team's first day of filming, we put Justin Long into the Creeper makeup because we shot the first ending of the film as the first day. And so
he looks crazy in that makeup, doesn't he?
Yeah, and it's Justin Long was the first Creeper we put on film. And then that original ending, we see the Creeper in his workshop, and we see his back, and he's stitching something together while the music's playing, and then the camera pans around, and then we see Derry's body, petrified body, on the wall without its head. And then the camera pans back, and I believe this is in the deleted scenes or something. We see Justin as the Creeper, with mostly Justin showing through because he's now has the Creeper has his head. And somewhere down the line, after we finished filming, Victor was convinced that, hey, this has all been about Derry's eyes, so let's shoot the ending again, which became the ending that we all know. So now we went back and we put a head on Justin's body, and it became the ending, all that. So Justin was the first actor we put on film as the Creeper, and the last actor we put on film as the Creeper. And then Breck came somewhere in between. And I'm just now remembering all that after 25 years. It's like, wow, that's right. Hey, how strange.
Incredible. Who else has a question? Raise your hands. We will bring the mic around. Right over here.
Yeah, I had a question about when you go and audition for the monster role like that, and they say, hey, create a character. You're going to be the monster, create a character for this monster. How much do you know about what that thing's going to look like, what its limitations are, its history? Have they given you some flesh and blood to dress up, or are you just out in nowhere by yourself?
No, it was really the wildest thing ever. I didn't get the script, so my agent sent over, I think, a paragraph at the time. And when I say a paragraph, that's generous. It was maybe 4 lines. And I said, you're auditioning for this character called the Creeper. We know he's probably several thousand years old, and he eats people, hunts them down and eats them. And that was really all I had to go on. And I said, well, what do they want me to do in the audition? And they said, well, they want you to create the character, right? And just show them your take on who you think this character is. And fortunately, I had about a week to think about it. And that never happened. That rarely happens in Hollywood. Usually the day before you get a call, or a couple days before, something like that, but I had a whole week to like think about it. And so I approached the character, again, just like I did any other acting role, kind of inside out. And I thought, okay, well, he eats people. And one other thing they told me, they said he only comes out he only gets to come out every 23 years. That was in the original description, for 23 days. And that was an important piece, because I thought, okay, you got 23 days. First of all, that's a long time to be underground thinking about what you're going to do in those 23 days. It really fueled the desperation, in his performance. But I thought about him in terms of being a predator, being a super predator. And I went into the animal world, and I thought, okay, I'm going to take pieces of a bird, right? And I studied birds, particularly the falcon, peregrine falcon, which I love, right? And I thought about, stalking the way a cat would stalk and so I kind of stitched together all the behavior, because it's all about behavior. He's communicating, but he's communicating with his behavior. And as actors, a lot of times we rely on the dialogue. But as human beings, we're always, right now, we're always communicating something by how we're moving, how we're, right? So it was really cool to think about, okay, everything is communicating, and every move he makes is communicating. And so I stitched together this character, and I thought, I remember thinking, I'm about 95, the night before the audition, right? I'm feeling good. But I'm like, I feel 95% there, but something was missing. I didn't know what it was. I couldn't get it. And I looked pretty much like I do today, except I had longer blonde hair. I probably spent too much time on the beach as an unemployed actor. And I woke up in the middle of the night, and I thought, I gotta shave my head. I gotta shave my head, because this character wouldn't have any hair. He wouldn't want to mess with hair, right? And they didn't even say anything about prosthetics in the paragraph. So I was thinking, I'm not menacing enough. And so I literally had that thought in the middle of the night before the audition. I went down the hall, woke my roommate up, and said, Doug, you gotta shave my head. And he was like, what the fuck? Go back to sleep. And we sat in my little bathroom in Hollywood, and I got him out of bed, and we cut my hair, and then he shaved my head, helped me shave my head. And I remember, looking up in the mirror for the first time, going, and then it all, all the cosmic tumblers kind of fell into place, and I kind of knew I had it. And then I remember I was on my way to the audition, and one of my mentor actor friends of mine, been doing it forever, he just happened to call me on the way. He said, what are you doing? I said, I'm on my way to this audition. He goes, whatever comes to your head, whatever instinct you have, don't even think about it, not even for a millisecond. Just go for it, whatever you can think of. And so I remember walking in the room, and it was this, again, strange audition. There's an X on the floor, like you'd see on a TV show, right? And there's a wall of tables with a bunch of people sitting behind them. And there's a little chair out in the middle of the room, go out there and do your dance, basically, right? And I remember walking in the room, and the waiting room was full of actors, and they finally called my name, and I walked in and sat down very quietly, and nobody even paid any attention to me. They were all like eating or on their phone, or talking about the last actor or whatever. And then finally, the director, Victor, who was there that day, he looked up at me and he goes, and then he looks down at my picture, my 8x10 picture, and he looked up at me, he looked down, and he turned it over, and he looked very confused, and he looked up at me and he said, you don't have any hair. And I said, well, sir, this character wouldn't have hair, so I shaved it. And I just felt the whole room go, and everybody looked up. And I was like, it's fucking on, baby. And I had everybody's attention. They said, okay, have you prepared something? I said, yeah. I said, I'm going to leave the room. And they're like, okay. So I just came, I wanted to, and it was just an instinct, and I just came in the room, and, they always tell you, I don't know who they are, but they always tell you as a young actor to never threaten the casting director. Right? Never make them uncomfortable. You don't want to invade their personal space. You'll never work in this town if you break the auditioning, right? I didn't think of that. I never thought about that. You know, I came in the room and they had the casting director, and he was sitting there, and they said, okay, we want you to come in the room and kind of stalk the this casting director. And so I did. And have you ever seen the audition, by the way, my original audition? Okay, so for you guys that are interested, they actually put it on YouTube. So the very first time I walked in the room, what I'm describing to you, they filmed it with a video VHS recorder. And Victor or somebody posted it on YouTube. So you can actually see the very first audition I did. If you Google Jonathan Breck audition, it'll come up. And I went after that casting director and scared the piss out of him.
I was going to say, he looks like he's about to beat his pants.
Yeah, when you see it, you know, I really went after him. But all that stuff that I brought with me somehow made it on film, I think, you know. I mean, it was like the makeup and everything just added to it. You know, everything along the way just added to it. But the core, I think, of my performance was there on that very first day when I auditioned for it.
That's awesome. I got to find that video. We have time for one more question. Who would like to ask the last question? Raise your hand. We'll bring the microphone around. Right up here.
So when I first saw the movie, one of the things that struck me was in the beginning, the first section of the movie, it sort of reminds me of Jaws. How you don't see the monster, you just get hints of things, and that builds this sort of anticipation for when you finally see it and you see the great makeup effects and everything. So my question is, when you were given this script, like, did that come across in the beginning of the script that this was going to be that type of the beginning of the movie, the sort of negative space that it created before it exploded?
Yeah, well, of course, I had a lot of conversations with Victor about how he wanted to keep surprising the audience by giving a little bit more into each act of the film, and that came true because we went and saw a handful of theaters on opening weekend and sat with the real audience, and as the movie went on, you'd always hear this like little, what is it? What is he? And then you'd see something more and they, what the fuck is he? And then it's a big, what the fuck is he? So that was a design in the storytelling to give you a little bits, but not all of it all at once right at the beginning. That's a killer. It's like, oh, we've seen the monsters, we can leave. You know? But he baits us in all through the storytelling and keeps you riveted and then keeps you guessing and wondering until there's this big payoff at the end when you see this gargoyle demon winged thing that you still don't know what it is. But yeah, so again, that was all by design, and it helps with the flow and again the storytelling done right.
Right. And you know, that was very in that comparison to Jaws. I mean, I remember having conversations about that, literally going, yeah, we're going to insinuate his point of view. We're going to have him in shadows. You know, we're going to treat it very much like Bruce the shark, right?
Yeah.
Until the very end, you know, when you see him, but then after that, you know, it really got fun too when we came back for the second movie because we're like, well, the reveal's already been done.
Yeah, and yeah, Victor, with the second movie, Victor would say, well, this is like Hitchcock's Lifeboat, or,
right.
Yeah, he did
right.
Lifeboat.
Lifeboat.
So you got all these people trapped on this lifeboat out in the middle of the ocean, and they can't get out because there's stuff out there that's going to eat us.
Yeah.
And it works, you know, it's a theme that works.
Well, Victor, I mean, first and foremost, he's a film fan.
Yeah.
Very knowledgeable about genre, all genres, right? And as I mentioned before, a great storyteller. But the second movie was his Lifeboat.
Yeah.
Basically was his homage to Lifeboat, you know. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys for making the time today. This has been fascinating.
Thank you.
Thank you for all the work and giving us a timeless classic.
Thank you guys for coming. Sunday afternoon. Appreciate it. Thank you. It's been great.